why we should master our mindset is happiness, right? If you're not happy, then you need to revisit the reasons why you're not happy. We're going to give 5 keys to mastering your mindset, but I think it's important we have a little chat around why we need to master it.
Yeah, it's a great point around being happy. It always reminds me of a quote that I believe was from John Lennon, who said that when he went to school, and I think it's reported that he was 5, he was given an assignment around what he wanted to be when he grew up, and his response was to be happy. And the teacher said, "You don't understand the assignment. You know, you don't understand life." It makes me think, you know, if I can achieve that for my little girl, if I can instill in her that her purpose in life is to be happy, to be kind, you know, to not be happy at the expense of other people, but equally to not be unhappy herself because she's not willing to create some boundaries. And it's about getting that balance. I think once we understand where it is we're going and why it's important to us to get there and what's our purpose, and that can lead to a whole raft of debate as well, can't it? Like, you know, what is our purpose? But again, reminds me of another quote. Funny that, because I do love a quote.
Are you quoting someone else?
One of my favourites, and his view is that the meaning of life is to find our gift, and the purpose of life is to give it away. And for me, the two align so beautifully to, 1, why happiness is important, and 2, why our mindset is important. I'm going to stop quoting people now.
I like to quote you. You said amateurs compete and professionals partner. I think that was it.
Professionals co-create, but to be fair, it's the same thing.
So in terms of why we should master our mindset, because then you begin to create the life that you want, because each of us, we have all these different elements in our lives, right? And some of them may not be working for us, and they're not going to work for us unless we master our mindset first, because then we can focus on each element of our lives, which gives us joy. And then we can basically have a more, I'm not going to say a balanced life, because Michael Tobin, he hates the balanced lifestyle thing. I think it's more like a work-life integration. We can have a balanced work-life integration is probably how I would describe it.
I suppose it depends on how we take the word balance. I mean, we could take it literally as in they're equal, or just that they are in balance with how much time we want to spend in each of them. That doesn't mean to say it has to be equal. It has to be right for us. And I think this is what we're here to do. We're here to design our life, and what my life might look like could be very different, probably will be very different to what somebody else's life would look like. But as long as it's playing to my purpose, my values, and as long as I'm not being unkind or hurting others, then actually how I choose to live it really probably is down for me to determine, as long as I say, you're not doing it at the detriment of somebody else.
So in terms of the 5 keys to mastering our mindset, first of all, you know, I'm big into exercise and a healthy diet, as you are. Healthy lifestyle is number 1 as far as I'm concerned.
I think having a healthy lifestyle is important. It probably for me isn't my number 1, but it's in the top 5. But I think for you and I, we probably go at things ever so slightly differently. And I guess that's back to that earlier point, which is it's about having our own lives in balance that work for us. But I do think that, you know, when I've talked to people over the years, and we're doing this now nearly 30 years, what I found is the 5 we're going to talk about are the ones that form everybody's list in some order of that top 5. And that seems to create that overall balance. So
I think you could bring spirituality into mastering your mindset, but I like to keep it separate. I think if you're suffering and you're at a bad place, you kind of need to talk to someone. You know, if that's a counselor or a priest or whomever or a yogi or whatever, whomever you choose to speak to, I think that's very, very important. But that's not part of this conversation. I think really reframing your thinking is the next one. It's a fantastic skill to have, to be able to look back and go, oh, well, actually, I'm looking at this in the wrong way. Maybe you know, you had an example, didn't you, the other day about being stuck at home, and you said, well, I'm not stuck at home. I'm safe at home, is what you said.
I guess it's around the labels that we use, because very often the label that we're choosing to use will determine whether or not we're viewing something as positive or negative. So I could say, you know, as a single mum, here I am stuck at home, can't go anywhere, can't get any support, have to just keep going. Or I can say that I'm safe at home. I'm making sure that I'm looking after me and my little girl, and we're doing our bit to try and keep everybody else safe as well. Depending on which one of those labels I choose is going to have a massive impact on my psyche, my psychology, how I show up and how I feel about what's going on right now. And so what I try and do with everything is have a look at what label am I using and how well is it serving me? Because if it isn't serving me well, is there an alternate view? I use this all the time and probably annoy the living daylights out of everybody, but I use this quite a lot. If I said, I'm looking at the same book, if I tell you there's nothing written on the cover, the more I say there's nothing written on it, the more you'll go, Kim, there's clearly words here. But if I turn it round to show you what I can see, there's nothing written on the book. The fact is we're viewing exactly the same thing. We're just viewing it from a different standpoint. And that's because we live in a world of polarity. For every up, there's a down. For every left, there's a right. So when we look at something and when we believe our view of it, actually seeking to understand, is there an alternate view, can really change things. I guess the other thing in reframing is to focus on the things that we can control. With lots of things in life, you can't control them. When we come out of lockdown, not in my control. There's nothing I can do. I could get very upset about it. It's not going to change what happens. It's not going to change when I'm allowed out. So instead, I do my best every day to go, is this something that is in my control or outside of my control? If it's in my control, make a decision, make a choice, and move in that direction. If it's outside of my control, I do my best to park it and go, do you know what? Worrying about it isn't going to change anything, but it will change me and it will change how I show up. So instead, I'm going to park that somewhere else. You could say I'm a bit of an ostrich. I'll put my head in the sand. I'm going to focus instead on something that I can do. And focusing on that thing that I can do can become the life raft in the muddy, stormy waters of my mind for all the things that are out of my control, depending on where I am in my life.
I agree 100% on that. I think, Michael Tobin says exactly the same thing. Loads of successful entrepreneurs like you also say the same thing. So on to the next one, right? It's kind of related to reframing our thinking. It's focusing on our strengths. So, I mean, I look at this quite in my own way. I sort of say I'm doing a task and I've never done it before. I will, and I feel like, I'm really struggling to do this. Then I will think about something that I'm really good at, and I will borrow the confidence and the success that I've had with that other thing. And that really just helps me. What's your view on focusing on your strengths?
I think sometimes, and maybe this is just the way we've been brought up in society, we try and make everybody good at everything. And all that does is lead us to feel not very good at everything because you can't be. And actually, one of the things that I learned as a leader was that I didn't need to be good at everything. What I needed to do was find people that were brilliant at it and be confident enough that just because they were better than me at that thing didn't mean to say that I was in any way at risk of being able to build my career and my credibility, because my role was to help them be the best they could be, help them turn the volume up on their strengths and realize that collectively as a team, it's the combination of us all that makes us successful. If you're a team of footballers, and I'm going to clearly show my age and my lack of football knowledge, but if you were a team of footballers, you wouldn't want all of them to be David Beckham because you'd have nobody in defence, you'd have nobody getting it around. It would be a rubbish team. So having a football team where everybody knows their strengths and plays to those strengths and works together collectively, what you end up with is the power of the team. I think that's where we need to get to in life, is we need to have a look at it and say, actually, what are my strengths? And who are the people in my tribe, in my team, that actually are strong in the areas where I'm not? And am I strong in the areas where they aren't? And therefore, collectively, we are stronger. The sum of the parts is always greater than the sum of the individuals.
I agree. Like, no one can be good at everything. Doing things that you don't really like. I mean, in a small business, and perhaps in your current job, you may have to do things that you don't like. But at the end of the day, you're working towards expanding the things that you really enjoy doing, because they're going to bring you more joy, and what you focus on expands, right? So if there's a particular job that you're doing right now and there are elements that you really enjoy, then try and focus more on the joy from those parts of your job, and that's going to help expand those strengths and bring you more happiness.
One of the things I get clients to do is think about when they're not at work right now, that when they're nice and relaxed somewhere, write down all the things that bring them joy, the things that they enjoy doing, whether that's in work or out of work. And then write down all the things you don't enjoy, the things that zap your energy. And then go back over the list and say, if these things that bring me joy, if they weren't part of my everyday life, I would be sad. And then look at the things that you don't like doing and go, if these were part of my everyday life, I'd be sad. Because we don't get to do everything we want, and we do sadly have to do some things we don't enjoy. But understanding our outliers, understanding the things that really hype our energy and the things that really zap our energy, enable us to plan better. If we've got to attack something that is going to zap our joy, try and intersperse it with something that we know is going to really catapult it, and vice versa. And that way you can manage your energy levels better.
I do that on a daily basis, right? Like if there's something that I'm really not enjoying, I'll put my tools down and go and do something that I do enjoy to bring the joy back into my life. And then I can go back to that task with a new focus and a new happiness. And then it happens again. It's like a continual thing of going in, doing something you don't like and going, all right, I'm going to take a break. And then you go back into something else. And, we're going through it, right? Being around encouraging people, that helps all of these keys. It helps us to master our mindset, to find encouragement, to find someone we can talk to. It is just massive. They say you're the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most, right? It was 10 at some point, but now it's 5, I think. That's what they say. And I believe in that. I think if you hang out with people who don't inspire you, who frankly, aren't interested in things that you're interested in, then you're going to slowly decline, really, in my opinion.
And you mentioned it earlier in that you will borrow your belief in something else that you've done. And the beauty of being surrounded by people that love, trust, respect, and believe in you is that you can borrow their belief. And those moments where you're like, oh, I'm not really sure I can do this. Thinking back to, and I know we've used this analogy before, but I learned a lot since becoming a mum. And we kind of look at it and say, if we get up in the morning, we had to learn how to walk or talk or run or jump or skip, we'd be a bit overwhelmed. And yet at our most vulnerable, we learn how to do that. And we learn how to do it because of 3 things. The first is the second is because we don't really know how to say no and mean it. We're too small. And the third is whenever you've seen anybody learning to walk, the people around them are there going, come on, sweetheart, you're so close. You can do this. I believe in you. So I think surrounding ourselves with people who inspire us and believe in us is vital to our mindset, because we can borrow their belief until we find our own.
Number 5 is a really big one. Knowing an end game and having a focus on that is just, it's empowering, right? Like when you draw up that 5-year plan, I mean, we drew up a 5-year plan, we sat down, we got a whiteboard out, and it's the only time we've ever used a whiteboard, because I know you don't like whiteboards and you don't really like planning, you just like to do stuff. But in this context, a 5-year plan was really enjoyable because it wasn't getting down into the nitty-gritty, into the details, which most of the time you don't need a plan for, not us. You just go and do them, right? Focusing on that end goal and saying, well, this is where we're heading. Year 1, this is what we're going to aim for. Year 3, we're going to aim for that. And year 5 is just fantastic. It gives you a whole sense of freedom. When I spoke to Michael Tobin, OBE, about this, he basically said, it's not going to stop you getting Ubered on the way. If you make this plan and it's too detailed, there's always going to be things that come up along the way which may speed it up or slow it down. But as long as you're aiming to that 5-year point, you're going to get there, right?
Well, it reminds me, I said I wouldn't do any more quotes, but you know me. It reminds me of a couple of things. If you don't know where you're going, any path will get you there. So you've got to have an idea of your direction. And the second thing is that obstacles are things we see when we take our eye off the goal. So actually, when we're focused on where it is we're going to go, then our subconscious brain starts to seek out opportunities for us. Whereas if all we start doing is looking at the obstacles, our subconscious brain finds them for us because we find what we focus on. You might not be able to answer the whole problem, but if you can see one way of just edging yourself forward, take it, because you don't know what else is going to come into view by keep edging forward. And as long as we keep moving, then we stand a chance of achieving what we want to.
Very much so. And thank you everyone for watching, and God bless.
Take care.